I have given a name to my pain. The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Batman of Gotham.
You don't really think you'll win, do you? I'm Batman.
Hey now, you are listening to episode 101 of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is the sponsor, as well as a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows at batmanpodcastnetwork.com. I actually added a new show on this past week, and I've kind of did some hedge trimming, if you will, to some shows that were no longer broadcasting. I guess that would be the best way to put it. And
you put up our new show art too.
Yes, and I did do that as well. I am the founder and editor-in-chief of Batman on Film, Jett Ramey. But I am not today's podcast host. I am going to be just a regular old BOF Roundtabler. Nothing against being a regular old BOF Roundtabler, but I don't want to insult anyone. So, but I would prefer to be just a panelist, if you will, on today's show. And with that, I am going to turn it over to today's host, and that would be the great Justin Kowalski. All right, hey. Justin.
How's it going, everybody?
Hey now, yes. Good.
Radical.
I feel a little like Rick Shue right now. So,
but you have to, because he's not here.
I do. It's kind of I feel like I'm wearing a very small, tiny crown. Kind of like I feel like Jughead. So.
That was Rick, the Jughead of BOF.
So there we go. So
he is now.
Bill's Archie, and
that's how you know that we love. We put out an art.
You need to Photoshop a Jughead hat on Rick and put that on Twitter. But anyway,
instead of loving burgers, he loves sandals.
All right, so you guys have already heard there is many more voices on this show, and you guys have just got introduced to Bill once again, so thank you, Bill, for having us. Up next with us here on the show is Mr. Ryan Haas. Ryan, how you doing?
Hello. I'm doing good.
Yeah, doing well. Doing really well.
Yes, pretty well.
There you go. Okay, so some of these mystery voices you've heard. First up is, and I know he doesn't like when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyways, Batman on Film royalty. Mr. Chris Clow, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm all in, as you might say.
He is all. All right, and our panelist behind door number 4, Mr. Marvel Pants himself, P-Thug.
Go, man.
Mr. Paul Hermann, how you doing?
I'm good. Don't call me a Marvel guy. I might get run out of Batman on Film from the fans.
Oh, no.
Not from you guys, but from the fans. But what is Marvel guy doing out here? Get him out of here.
Not only is he a Marvel zombie, but he is also a Mac zombie, apparently.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Paul's got a ball, yo.
Hey, me and Paul together. We roll the Twitterverse as Mac.
It's like a Mac Marvel is like a jelly and cheese sandwich. It's just like ugh.
We're only joking. We're gonna strike that from the show. So all right, so we're all here for Batman on Films. Now let's all say it together if we can. Authoritative, definitive. The Dadgum original.
I do Dadgum, man. Come on.
This is show number 101, and we are doing our long-awaited Justice League review. I know a lot of people were saying, "Hey, when are you going to do it?" And it was hard to get us all in. To be all in. You really have to. Everything has to sync up. It's not just like you can just start walking into people randomly over a couple days and all get together. You have to plan this very well. And so anyways, we really wanted to have Paul on, and we wanted to have Chris on, and so we're going to jump into this. So just to preface this show, we're not going to get into the making of the soup today. We get it. We know about all the behind the scenes stuff. We've talked about it. If you've been listening to Batman on Film for over the last year. So you've heard about it. You've heard our thoughts and all that. So we're not going to talk about that stuff today. Today, we are just talking about the film Justice League. And also, as the movie's been out about 2 weeks, we will be avoiding, we will not be avoiding any spoilers. Everything is open and on the table. So everybody speak freely. So you guys good? You guys ready?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
First,
What's that?
can I see it again first?
Can you see it again first? Yeah, please. Warner Brothers is saying, please see Justice League again. They are encouraging now.
Ouch.
They are encouraging the sentiment of, hey, watch it again. Take your kids. So, all right. So just jumping in, what I want to get into, I want to start. This might be weird for some people. I just want to start. Let's get all of our concerns and the things that kind of may have, bummed us out going on the way in. And I actually wanted to tie it kind of in. What was your expectation with this movie, and then kind of counter that with, oh man, this is what didn't meet my expectation. And then we're going to move into, the stuff that we really enjoyed and moving on into the future. So, Chris, I really wanted to have you open up the floor with your thoughts on this movie.
All right. Where do I begin? It was haphazard, patched together, and a Frankenstein monster of a movie. But honestly, when I was watching it, I loved every minute of it. So I don't think I really have anything to add here in the early going.
Okay. No, that's good. All right, Paul. So you know what, Paul, your thoughts are very interesting to me because I think you're kind of known as not being a DC guy, but
For the most part, yeah.
but you can enjoy like DC
Absolutely.
comics. Same thing. I mean, I'm a more of a DC guy, but there's Marvel stuff I love. So hearing your thoughts on this film, I was like, okay, because you were really excited and you kind of avoided a lot of the spoilers and stuff going on. So what were your things going into it, and let us know.
Going into it, I was really excited. I was more excited for this than Ragnarok, but I was also very cautious to say, will it be a better movie than Ragnarok? I don't know. And, so going into it, I mean, seeing all these heroes together is really exciting. So
yeah,
I hated seeing the pessimism that was on before even the reviews dropped, and then the reviews dropped, and seeing the Rotten Tomato score, and the scores don't really matter to me, but I know they matter to other people, and that's what bums me out, and that's what bums people like just use that as a gauge of like, oh, it's gonna suck. Like I have a friend who always uses that as a thing to tell me that, oh, this DC movie's gonna suck. It's got like a 40. I'm just like, dude, I just don't care, So, going into it, I want to be entertained and have fun. And I will be honest, I saw this movie twice, and the first time I was really tired when I watched it. I didn't sleep well the night before, not because I was excited about, the movie or nervous or whatever, but I just didn't sleep well. And I saw it with a buddy of mine, and I didn't love it. Like I was expecting to love it with all my DC friends, loving it. And I love superhero films. This is why I go. It doesn't matter if it's Marvel or DC. I just love this kind of stuff. And when I saw it, I didn't love it. It took me the second viewing with my brother. We went together, and I liked it even more. I liked it a lot more the second time. And the first time, I think I was just really tired. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I guess in short, I came in kind of like, I really hope I'm going to like this. I didn't love it the first time. I saw it the second time. I enjoyed it a lot more the second time.
All right. Yeah. I think I had a similar experience on that. All right, Bill. We all kind of know where your thoughts were going into.
Okay.
But just gonna be concise and let us know, overall. Like,
Well, I got you. I saw it 3 times. I saw it at press screening here in Houston. The Monday before it opened. I saw it at the watch party in Austin the Saturday after it opened, and then I saw it. I went by myself to see it during Thanksgiving week off break, and I had like zero expectations for this film, and just in general, I wouldn't have been all that excited. This is not my thing. Justice League, is not my cup of tea when it comes to Batman on film, but I love superhero movies, and be it Marvel, Fox, or DC. Of course, DC Batman's my guy, and even with everything I knew about it going in, in all 3 screenings, it never got past just okay. It's just okay. And I think that's reflected in the Rotten Tomato score, even though it's not really, it looks like it's a, steaming pile of crap based on the score. But I think overall, if you actually read the reviews, even the ones that are marked rotten, it's still, it's basically just okay. So that's it. I 3 screenings, it stayed the same. It's just okay. It's not, to me, there's the bad is bad, the good is good, and then there's a lot of just okay in between, and that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, no, I can completely resonate with a lot of those thoughts.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan.
Yes.
Where are you at, buddy?
Well, so I have seen Justice League 4 times actually. I saw it at a press screening.
Okay.
I haven't seen it 6 times.
6 for 6, man.
I haven't seen it 6 times.
Oh no!
But, nor will I. But I've paid for it 3 times. Let's say that. I saw it at a press screening on Tuesday, which was an interesting experience to say the least. Because we had horrible seats and I had to look at the bottom right quadrant of the film pretty much, which wasn't great. And then I saw it in IMAX on Friday. Saw it again at the BOF watch party we had in Raleigh, Durham on Saturday. And then I took my dad and sister to see it over Thanksgiving weekend. 4 different screenings, 4 different theaters actually, which was helped cement a lot of feelings and thoughts I had about the film. But my expectations were pretty low, I guess. If you check the tape and listen to our other shows, I would consistently say I'm just in wait and see mode. I wanted to see what was going to happen. But the thing that I was looking for and hoped for out of the movie was that it, I wanted it to enhance BVS and prove out the choices that film made, and I hoped that both films, BVS and Justice League, could kind of speak to each other as a kind of a companion thing. And, that didn't really happen, and I didn't expect it to at the end of the day, based off of everything we've talked about over the last year. So that was part of a bit of a letdown, but, although it didn't do those things, it didn't matter so much when I was watching the film until we get to a handful of choice things, which I'm sure we'll get into. Yeah. But, watching the movie, it's fun. It's a fun movie. And I had fun while I was watching it. And, for the most part, the characters are just a joy to watch. It's fun to see the Justice League get together. But just a lot of things about how the film was made and how it does feel like a kind of a mixed bag Frankenstein kind of film, the way it was put together and rushed out the door. Although it is fun and I've enjoyed seeing it 4 times. It is, like Bill said, it's just okay. And so I think we can get into the particulars.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat of it's hard to escape all the behind the scenes stuff, because that does kind of filter your thoughts going into something. But overall, you guys know, and I've said it, like, this was my number one that I was looking forward to over Ragnarok, over Star Wars as well. So, and that might be hard for some people, but I was like, this is the one I'm looking forward to. And it just didn't hit. And I had a feeling it wasn't going to hit that feeling. Like, I feel like the Justice League is gold plated. It has to be. They are the iconic heroes. They are the ones that are shiny, and I hold them to this standard, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm excited for this, but I don't know if it's going to hit my expectation. And sometimes it's like my own expectation on the characters, but I feel like these characters deserve that. It should be like an event. It should be something of grandeur, and it just didn't hit that for me, which made me bummed out. That being said, I had a good time at the movie. Everyone that was there, the theater experience was really fun. Like, there was cheering, there was clapping at all the parts. And so that made it fun for me. That was, hey, I'm glad that happened. And a theater experience can, enhance anything, as long as you're having a good time. But when you walk away and you can be, not going to be partial to anything, I'm just going to take it for what it was as you download it and digest it. There are the things that, oh man, yeah, those are the things that didn't make me happy. And on repeat viewings, I'm going to continue to explore those, and question those things and go, why did they do that? And I have those, but I will tell you, the second time I went, I took my boys, they could not wait to see this movie, and they loved every minute of it, which makes me happy, because I could not take my kid to see, any DC films for the last, their lifetimes, to be honest. My oldest,
you had to cut a special version of BBS just to show them.
I made a 45-minute version of Batman versus Superman, which doesn't make any sense, which in turn maybe makes more sense
You need to send that into Warner Brothers, dude.
than the theatrical cut. What?
You need to send that into Warner Brothers.
Yes, the 45-minute mandate. It's the sub-ultimate edition.
Yeah.
They were like, make it 45 minutes.
This is the kiddo edition.
Yeah, and so my kids, they just wanted to see Batman versus Superman fight, and then Wonder Woman, and so that's basically what they get. They get this grudge match, but they had a good time with this movie, and so there's a little part of me that's like, that's what we need, but we don't need to do it the way we did it. Like, take a cue from Star Wars and Marvel, in the sense of, it doesn't have to be these like silly jokes, but there needs to be a way to make it for everybody to enjoy. It doesn't mean you got to dumb stuff down. You just make it so that it's not so, Batman, when he punches somebody, they don't have to, their head doesn't have to explode with blood, like that type of stuff. Like, my kids get heroic fisticuffs, it just let them be able to digest it, because these kids still need to be able to see their heroes. Like, the argument sometimes, there's cartoons, but they want to be a part of the theatrical experience. And I bet you Warner Brothers wants more box office. So let's make it so that the kids can come, at least for Superman. If Superman's in the movie.
Yeah. I was about to say, it depends on the character. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't want that with Batman, just to be frank. I don't want an R-rated Batman where there's blood and, and all that stuff. And,
and he doesn't need it. We've talked about that. I mean, look at the Dark Knight trilogy. There was no blood in that and all that.
But, Superman should be a film for everyone,
Yeah. And
here's still hoping, fingers crossed, that we see Cavill in a Superman film at some point. I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, that's my hope. And I think Shazam coming up is a perfect opportunity for kids to see a DC or Fawcett originally character on film. Yeah. So anyway, that's just a little side tangent, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So let's kind of get into some of those, a little bit more of those disappointments, the things like, oh man, why did that happen? So Paul, can you jump on in, bud?
Well, as far as to be honest, I think this film suffers mainly from not having a clear one-way vision. And I think Chris brought up kind of the Frankenstein, kind of a haphazard mess. As much as I enjoy the film, and I'm actually looking forward to watching it again, because I really did enjoy all the characters. The characters work.
Yeah.
The movie itself is just kind of splotched together, and it doesn't really. It moves fast, but it's just all over the place. And it just screams studio interference, screams someone came in and took over. And, I think it reflects in some of the actors' performances. I'm going to take something from Mr. Rick Shue, the Sandal Lover himself. He said that, you could tell that Ben kind of mailed in his performance in some places. Yeah. And I think in the Joss Whedon stuff, it's very evident that he just wants to get in and get out. And I'm not saying he was terrible, but you can just tell that you can tell the Zack Snyder stuff that he did, that you can tell he was, excuse me, the pun, all in on. And you can tell the stuff that with Joss Whedon, he was like, all right, I want to get my check and get the hell out. And
you can tell physically as well. I mean, he looks a little different,
Yeah, true. I give that stuff the benefit of the doubt a lot of times, but just his mannerisms, his voice.
Ben of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm out of control today. No, but just like the overall, like, his voice sounded different. I don't know if you get that. I know the ADR stuff, but like his voice sounded a little different. It stood out to me. Maybe everything, like the physical, his performance, everything was just kind of eh. And it was a little distracting at first. I kind of accepted it the second time, and maybe that's why I liked it more. But I think the problem with this film is that honestly, in my opinion, and I know Zach had to leave because of an awful, awful tragedy, but I almost feel like if they would have stuck with Zack Snyder's tone, it might have at least connected with more people instead of trying to appeal, like which Warner Brothers has been trying to do since Man of Steel, is appeal to so many, so the masses. And when they do that, like it ends up hurting them more and more. They just can't figure it out. Like they either give someone too much control or they take away too much. They take away too much,
or get cold feet at the end and try to cut it down.
Yeah.
So it shows up in the product, and I think people see that, like, and they're like, eh. So in my opinion, I think that like that's the biggest problem, because here's the thing. Whatever, I'm not sure how in charge Zack Snyder was of like developing all the characters in a sense, so like Aquaman, Flash, etc. But all those things, all the characters worked. It just was a mess. The story was a little bit of a mess.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Right there, like Zack Snyder was, he created every one of these characters, how they were going to be on screen.
The casting,
yeah. I mean, that's all him. And I agree with the point of let him see it out. If you go back to, this is all reactionary after reactionary after reactionary, but if you go back to Justice League, to BVS, if they would have just put that, I wonder if they put the 3-hour cut in, if it would have been reviewed better, because it is a little more coherent. I mean, there's still problems. I will
100% agree with that.
Yeah,
100%.
I wonder if it would be a little less.
I don't know if it would have done enough though, but
Yeah. And we don't need to get all into that, but I'm just like what you said, that makes sense. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on any of that stuff, or do you have other things to bring up?
Well, it's not that the movie is without problems. I went into the movie with eyes wide open, I mean,
yeah,
it's hard not to have, like you alluded to earlier, Justin, it's hard not to have your perspectives painted by all of the immense production difficulties, because you speculate, if you have any semblance of understanding of how movies work, and particularly how superhero movies have worked over the last 30 years, you know that those production difficulties can lend themselves directly into the final product. And that absolutely happened with Justice League. The story is, I think the biggest problem that I had story-wise and structurally was that it moved far too fast through a couple of things. Like there wasn't enough exposition in places to fully set the table for the scenes going on. But that also lends itself to what I think is a positive point, which I think we'll get into a little bit later. But and I was disappointed in the correction made to Henry Cavill's face in post-production, but that's not something that I blame Warner Brothers on. I blame Paramount for that, because apparently Paramount has the inability to fashion a realistic looking prosthetic mustache instead of screwing up a whole movie this is something that the movie is now into the cinematic canon forever with that CG correction on Henry Cavill's face.
It was a major FU to Warner Brothers.
Oh, totally.
Yes,
totally.
Well, I wondered if they tied into the Watchmen stuff. Remember, there was a big Paramount Warner Brothers Watchmen.
Yeah.
They said that they had part of the right to it.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, Paramount has also had a really crappy couple of years. Like I have a Star Trek Discovery podcast, and I was talking with Zachy Hassan. Oh, shut up, Paul. Yeah. It's actually a great show. But I was talking with Zachy.
You know what, Paul just lost his plug at the end. There you go.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs just blocked you.
But
sorry, Chris. Go.
You guys know Zachy Hassan, and he's a panelist on my Star Trek Discovery show, because we were talking about the fact that they haven't slotted a sequel to Star Trek Beyond over the next couple of years. And part of it is because Paramount has had a really bad couple of years at the box office. And I don't know how much of that sentiment might have fed their jerk-like total. Well, I don't want to curse in the show, but they were being very, very large jerks when it came to this attitude, right? They absolutely were, and it makes no sense to me that they couldn't have spent, I don't know what, $30 of production budget money on a fake mustache for Henry Cavill, as opposed to what ended up happening.
It's not like it's been done for 100 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, we have to go to computers for this.
There was somebody, I don't know who was, I think even Cavill said it, that, we couldn't shave it. There's a reason why when you watch the film, why it couldn't be fake.
Huh.
I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
I highly doubt.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, what?
Okay,
What?
so-
Cavill is a super nice dude and gentleman, so
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah, I could
Well,
see that.
but I
a
mean,
little bit of
just
that.
think about it practically, though. So even if they couldn't shave it for most of the movie, if there's something that requires the mustache to be removed or something, it seems like it would be easier to CG the removal of a mustache as opposed to, for all intents and purposes, rotoscoping his entire face in every frame in Justice League. I just that bugged the hell out of me. But
If I was Cavill, I just would have shaved it and said, whatever.
Oops.
I'm Superman.
I got
Superman.
like drunk and stuff, and like something happened.
Well, and-
and-
No, but just, I just would have done it. But
I can imagine Paramount. You know that gif
Superman
of Ray
is-
Liotta laughing from Goodfellas?
Yeah.
Like that whole- that's what Paramount was doing. Like,
Yeah.
who made him shave the mustache?
yeah.
Or
I
whatever.
think part of it too is like an example of like, yeah, it's really crappy that Paramount like put their foot down, but that also shows that the reshoots that were done weren't planned. Like if they were planned and they had like things in place, there would have been things in a contract that was like, when he comes back to do the planned reshoots, where he's going to be clean shaven and all that stuff.
No, Ryan, no. This was
What?
These were standard pickups, sir.
No.
Everything was planned.
It's clear. It's on the screen when you look at it, though.
Everything went as it's supposed to be. They were just finishing Zach's vision. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to slip into that.
But
I'm just saying that simple thing. It's clear that those two things, were not.
are we really in a situation where a reshoot contract needs to be so narrowly circumscribed that it has to dictate what his friggin' mustache looks like?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was an a-hole move, and I'll say this, just kind of defend Paramount. And I heard that it was Cruise's order and not specifically the studio.
Oh,
so.
no way.
Tom Cruise strikes
Now-
again.
And here's the thing. Here's the irony. Didn't Cruise get injured and they had to push production back?
Yes.
It was, it was right after. It was right after Cavill finished his reshoot.
It's the mummy. The mummy's fault. It's the mummy. The mummy's the reason. Universal, you asshole.
Well,
Allegedly. I mean,
in any event, as
Yeah.
far as things I didn't like about the movie, that was definitely a very distracting part of it. But I was able to get past it because I knew that it wasn't going to look very good. But as far as other stuff is concerned, I mean, it's mostly just structural. Paul said it really well. The characters all worked, and that, at the end of the day, was the thing I was most concerned about. So I think that's probably why I hold this movie in higher regard than you guys do.
Yeah. I will agree with that. Every one of those characters I absolutely loved. I didn't have, I'll take that back. I had a problem with one of the characters. I didn't really care for how Flash was. Flash didn't connect with me, but overall, they all worked really well. My biggest grievance with this film is Superman's resurrection. I think they missed the boat on it. I think that it kind of was glossed over. The elements from BVS, the dirt rising and stuff like that. There was no payoff.
Yeah.
There was no payoff to it. And it almost felt like, well, why did we kill him off just to bring him back in such a kind of like laissez-faire way? It was very, and you know what? They missed the whole, if they're going to continue this, like this, Christ figure, like storytelling with him, if they would have went to resurrect him and he was gone, that would have just been perfect. Like, he's already gone. Like,
can I be honest for a second though? Like, I don't think BVS paid off at all in this movie. In fact,
no, that's
the
the point.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, like, no, I agree. I'm just saying, like, nothing from I feel like BVS, with the exception of Superman being resurrected, like, because they had to. Like, I feel like that's the only thing they try to acknowledge from that.
It's
movie.
almost as if they shouldn't have killed Superman in BVS. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Like, they could have formed the Justice League without Superman dying. I mean, it happened in the comics. Like he didn't even form the Justice League originally. He was not there. So that was my thing. I don't want to like hammer on the death of Superman so much, but that was the part that
digging him
really
up
hard.
was absolutely
Digging him up.
ridiculous.
It was just what are we watching?
awful.
I hated it, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, when he says, "Oh, I could do this fast, but I feel like it would be disrespectful," I'm like, this whole scene to me is disrespectful.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I didn't love it, man.
The only payoff in that scene is he says, "We're the accidents." I did like
accidents,
that,
and it sets up to them trying to do a fist bump, which does get paid off later. And I like
that whole
part.
but they could have done that with a whole different scene, not them digging up. Which Flash could have done in like a second.
Yeah, even Cyborg, he could have done some like
I know
sound vibration pound and pull him out. Anyway,
no, just cut to them having the casket. Don't even just think about it. Like,
is
why?
that a reshoot? That's my question. Is that a reshoot? Oh God, Whedon, why?
really? Yeah, I don't know. So, Ryan, you have anything that kind of?
Yes, I
want to go to the hope and the optimism very soon.
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm here. Let me go down my list. So, I mean,
he's a list.
I list. Sorry. It must be said. I must say these things. So, even though, like, I'm going to bring the Superman stuff up again. I mean, even though we knew a lot of that stuff, behind the scenes stuff, most of the time it is easy for me to put all that aside as soon as the film starts. I can kind of just sit back and just start watching the movie. But then the first scene that they show you in Justice League is like a perfect example of the film's problems, because it starts with that cell phone scene with Superman. And the second he opens his mouth, I'm just like, oh, this is really bad. Like the mouth just looked terrible, although the dialogue was great, the way that forms is great. And I like that scene, but just like 95% of the scenes that Superman is in, just the facial stuff ruins it for me. And I can't get past it. I really can't. I mean, because it is that distracting to me, because I can just tell it's there. And a lot of the scenes he's in, it's like they don't try to hide that, and they have super close-ups on his face so you can like look at his face, so it makes it that much more apparent when he's making these faces. And that's kind of a larger thing that you can tell in the movie, overall, like whenever there is a character and it's like just that character's like close-up face and they're talking with like a blurred background behind them, that's probably a reshoot, because that's cheap. If you have one actor in front of a camera and they're talking, and then you can just put something that's blurred behind them, then that's cheaper than reshooting an entire scene with a set and all that kind of stuff. And you can tell that in a few places, but man,
Aquaman, namely.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Aquaman, that one scene with Aquaman and
yes,
and Clark and Lois.
Yes. And so it was just super distracting, and it was bad enough to where at the end of the day, I just feel like they should have just delayed the movie. Like I would have been more okay with a 100% CG Superman with Henry Cavill's voice than what they did, because it just looks that bad to me. The story is rushed. It's 2 hours. They get to point A to point B, but there's just no substance. It's just like you just watch it and it's over, and oh, well, that happened. The Superman mustache stuff, it does kind of show that 95% of the Superman stuff was redone for the film. So I just kind of scratched my head at what they had before that was completely unusable. Well, Steppenwolf in general.
He was in the film less than he was in this.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they injected more Superman into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Steppenwolf, the way the story part and the CG are the two, things that I don't like. But the character himself, and this is like part of the whole film as a whole too, but the character himself of Steppenwolf, I like his dialogue is like cool. Like everything that he says is just, kind of a badass villain thing. Like the old gods died, and all that kind of stuff. I bought that, but man, the way his mouth moves when he talks is just terrible. And then, and then Batman in general. I mean, the way that they just kind of transform his attitude about Superman from I want to kill Superman in BVS to Superman basically being like his secret crush in Justice League. Like when, to me, a lot of that stuff,
Not wrong.
It just compromises the integrity of Batman. I'm sorry, that it just does. I mean, when
at the end of BVS, he did.
I know,
he realized.
but then they like go way too far with it. You know what I mean? Like there's some scenes that are good where he's talking about how Superman was more human than I am. Like, all that stuff's fine. But the kind of stuff I'm talking about is enough to just make me really dislike it overall. Like when Superman comes back and asks Batman if he bleeds and stuff, and he gets thrown, and then it shows Batman on the ground, and Batman says,
I like that.
Well, and Batman says, yeah, something's definitely bleeding. That was
bad. Yeah, that was bad.
That part right there where he says something is definitely bleeding. I'm like, they just threw Batman away figuratively and literally for a joke. And if you watch BVS and you see the "do you bleed" scene, there's no way that the payoff of that was ever going to be, yeah, something's definitely bleeding. You know, and it's like using the whole previous film as a punchline to a joke, and that just kind of it's bad.
That scene would have, if they had to put that joke in there, which
can have another character say
when
it.
I cut that for my kids, I'm cutting that part out.
Have Flash talking to Cyborg and be like, oh, something's definitely bleeding. Like,
yeah.
That would have been a little easier to stomach for me. But
Bill, do you think that line was awful for Batman? Yes. I need to know your opinion on this.
Yeah,
okay.
and when Justin gets to me, I'll talk more in detail about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. But yeah,
okay.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then the last Batman thing that just really, more than anything in this entire film, if I could just cut it completely out, it would be this, is when Superman returns in the final battle and they show Batman's reaction. Batman makes this face that is like so out of character that is, I'm like, I was in the theater and the first time I saw it, I like involuntarily yelled out like, no. I was like, what the crap? Like, give me back Clooney. Like, this is terrible. The Batman. I mean, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Like, the face he makes, and every time I see it, I've seen it 4 times. Every time I see it's worse and
Val
worse.
Kilmer smiling when he leaves the bedroom of Chase Meridian. Bad.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Superman! I'm so excited, and it to me, like, I've been talking to a lot of people about this, and to me, it looks like, they're shooting this scene or whatever, and they're like, yeah, and Superman comes back, and Affleck's like, oh, I should be really excited, like this, whoa, and he like does this face almost like an outtake, and then they decided to use that. That's what it looks like to me. And
it was a joke. Like, hey, Zach, what about this one?
Yeah, and then when they went to edit it, they're like, yeah, that's hilarious. Let's just use that. That's what it looks like to me.
Wouldn't be surprised as Whedon.
But that stuff like that, and then Batman's like, I don't not like you. I'm like, that's just
yeah.
That was bad.
That was strike 3 right there.
It's way too much of a departure from what Batman is and what that Batman is from BVS going into Justice League. It's just too much, and it just doesn't make sense, and it just kind of throws the character away for like this weird, like quirky, jokey, oh look, Batman doesn't know what to do, and that's funny, and I didn't like it. So that's my big stuff that I didn't like.
Batman grunting at that point would have been way more in character, like, that would have
just
and turning around, like, all right, whatever.
You mean Batman doesn't know? Batman knows how to react to every situation until his secret crush comes up and says, "Oh, I'm just like, so frustrating."
He's all man crush Mondays. People have defended that line in saying that, oh, he said that on Justice League Unlimited. I don't remember that episode, but that has nothing to do with this film.
It's also a cartoon.
Yeah. So, all right, Bill.
Okay. All right, I'll say this, brother. Just overall, the CGI was so bad it took me out of the film almost all the way through. Not just Cavill's, face. I sat on that mustache thing for a long time, and no, I can tell you now. I told y'all. Remember, I told y'all about it on the pod. Yeah,
we knew way ahead.
And I thought it would be better than that. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous, but I thought it would be better than that. But whatever. I'm not gonna harp on it. So yeah.
I know, but the thing is about the whole mustache thing, I got one last final point about that, is like, you guys gotta think that is a very hard thing to do. Like, when you make, effects and visual effects, the facial area is the thing that will make or break something. And you go back to like any of these things like that, that's the telltale sign of like something being fake, and having to like reconstruct, like remove his bottom half of his face and reconstruct it and redo that and do it in the short amount of time they had based off the reshoots is a huge feat. And I'm sure nobody's proud of what ended up on screen, but that's the time they had to work with. And it's barely passable, but I just kind of feel bad for everybody involved in having to do that.
So the CG was bad. Steppenwolf was like fake as hell. And look, I know that there's not a 10-foot tall alien from Apocalypse walking the earth right now, but can you look a little better than that? I mean, the freaking Hulk looks real, you know? This looked fake, and I know it's fake, but it looked fake. And I want to at least think it's real when I'm for the 2 hours or 1 hour and 59 minutes I'm watching the movie.
That's what I said. I feel like, man, Rocket Raccoon looks like a raccoon that they train to talk and shoot guns. Like, you never doubt that he's physically there. His fur and everything.
Can I say that I think that Steppenwolf, I think his body was fine. Is his face?
That was part. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they didn't do like an actor. They should have done something like Planet of the Apes, where they like, and if they did, I couldn't really tell. But
I thought they
should
did do that, Brian. But I don't know.
Captures.
I agree with you. It doesn't look like it though.
I just didn't see much of Kieran Hines' face in there, and it just makes me think that they just kind of animated it.
I watched Planet of the Apes, and they look real as hell. Caesar and all of them, Anyway, whatever. Yeah. But that is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, having him in a physical, just to go on that, man, stay away from the full CGI villains. I feel we need somebody there. We need practical effects in some points. We need to have at least like how they do it with Robert Downey Jr. He doesn't have Iron Man legs all the time. Like they CGI some stuff in, but if he would have been there and they could have make-upped them up or whatever, I just feel like that would help so much in the end, I think. And I don't know how the budgets and all that stuff work with CGI, but I'm like, having somebody physically there, having somebody in a costume that they can amplify it in post with CGI.
I'll just focus since I'm, Batman's my dude. I mean, this was the worst portrayal of Batman on film since Batman and Robin. It was. I mean,
that's my point too.
As soon as couple things. I mean, like that opening scene with the thief. That was good until frickin' Parademon shows up. And okay, that's my my sensibilities. But he gets on video on his arm and starts talking to Alfred and calling him Alfred.
To Alfred. I
mean, it doesn't take that much to figure out Alfred. How many Alfreds are there? And let me Google search this and blah, 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 and whatever. I just, why is he doing that? And then that Nightcrawler thing, that sucked. I don't even know why in the hell they would have that in there for a vehicle, and why Batman would have a spider-looking vehicle and he's flipping Batman. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Affleck, I thought, look, I don't like BVS, but his performance in BVS is head and shoulders better than his performance in Justice League. It is, period. And I was, if you read my recent thing on Batman on film, where I stand now with Affleck, let's go. Let's get out of here. I'm done with it, and I was one of his biggest defenders when he got the role. And I mean, read the thing, and I explain it all. But if you know me and you've been paying attention to Batman on film, you know how I feel about Affleck as Batman and all that. And then, the moment Superman shows up, Batman is insignificant. He does nothing.
I was kind of disappointed. Batman never interacts with Steppenwolf.
He does nothing.
One-on-one,
and it almost like, okay, you're making my case for me of why Batman shouldn't be in these type of films, because in fact, none of them. As soon as Superman shows up, Superman kicks Steppenwolf's ass, and that's it.
Well, Aquaman does get a couple good licks in with.
Yeah, I was gonna say Aquaman.
Those two do get joining the.
I mean, for me, I guess overall, and then, here and one other problem I've got, and because we're gonna get into more positive stuff, that second post-credit scene, even though it was cool, it was freaking ridiculous to put in this film, because it's the same thing as Warner Brothers announcing 25 films that are never going to get made. It's the same thing as them trotting out the quote unquote directors of the DC universe on film at Comic-Con a year and a half ago. And who are left? 2, James Wan and Patty Jenkins. I mean, stop with this. I can almost guarantee you that nothing's going to come out of this Legion of Doom, Injustice League, whatever it is. Nothing. I don't think we'll see Lex Luthor again. This Lex Luthor again. I don't know if they're going to, I know they've announced a Deathstroke film, but anybody want to hold their breath on that happening? So why put it in there? And it just, that's not my whole point. And let me go off on this. I'm getting fired up. They put the SOB in right at the very end. They screened that thing for the cast. They screened it for the first press screenings in LA. It was not in there. And then they put it in when they screened it for the press at the junket in London. And then they released it to the as its theatrical cut. That was ridiculous. And not because the scene wasn't cool and not because it wasn't done well. It's because it's going back to the same shit that they've been doing. I'm trying to make my point. You had this where you're ending it. You're putting a bow on top of it, and then you do this crap. And Batman sucked in this movie, and I'm done.
All right. So let's head to the skies, guys. Let's go into the stuff that we loved about the film.
How can we follow that up?
Yeah, well, and there we go. That was a nice little end cap to our grievances with the movie. But let's go into overall. I think we all pretty much had a good time with the movie in the sense of it was okay, it was fun, it was superhero fare, and so let's start pulling out some of the stuff that we
can I do
love.
first
Yes.
on this because okay.
You can.
All right.
Yes, you can, sir.
Yes, I was very hard on it. Look, there was a lot of things I liked about it. I think the things they did good were really, was really good. I love the Wonder Woman scene at the bank. Now, that was just straight up Wonder Woman. Could have been in a Wonder Woman film, but it was a cool little segment. Nonetheless, I like the whole cast. Even Affleck, even though his performance wasn't great, he does have chemistry with the rest of them. That wasn't an issue. It was like he was, he was such an eyesore apart from the rest of them. That's not the case. But I thought I loved Jason Momoa's Aquaman. Gal was great as Wonder Woman. I liked all that stuff. That was cool. Cavill, it makes me want to see him more. I want that Superman. I want to see him in another film.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this since Man of Steel ended with Welcome to the Planet, and that's what we should have got instead of BBS, a great Superman's film. But when I watched it, I had a good time watching it. It was fun. And now, am I going to put it in my rotation of DC films I'm going to watch over and over again? No, but it wasn't like, I wasn't horrified and like let down like I was for BBS last year. So in that, for me in that regard, it was a success. I mean, not an overwhelming success, but yeah, I enjoyed watching. So, I didn't hate it, and I thought I was going to hate it, and I can nitpick it to death. Not going to do that. And the best thing is, I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's gone, and I'm ready to move on. So, with that said, guys, I will turn it back over to you all, and I'm going to listen and chime in if needed, only if needed. And I'll say this: I'm happy for. If those, I've been waiting for this my whole life, folks, truly got 1 hour and 59 minutes of enjoyment out of this film. I am truly, and I'm not being a smart ass. I am truly happy for those people. I'm truly happy. And I do want to say that. I've said that over and over, but I want to say it again. So, all right, I'm back to being panelist. All right. Okay.
All right. No, I agree with those sentiments too, though. But I've been waiting for this film too, and I don't know if this is the one I was waiting for. I'll just say that. All right. So on to Chris. Chris, please bring us, because you wrote a really good article about Superman and him coming back and what it means. I just want you to kind of give us some light right now.
Put on your damn sunglasses then.
Yeah.
Blinding.
Oh, here we go.
Well, first of all, the first step in the right direction before I even saw the movie was its runtime, because as ambitious as the narrative was in Dawn of Justice, the runtime actively worked against the ability for a lot of other people to enjoy the movie. So by leaning on something that's shorter and punchier, they were sending a message from the very beginning, I think, that this was going to be immediately more accessible than a 2.5 hour attempted superhero epic. And I have a hard time thinking that those high run times and high budgets have been working in Zack Snyder's favor over the last 4 years. In fact, I think that those have probably actively been working against him on the WB lot in Burbank. So the idea that the movie was going to be shorter was immediately a sign of positivity to me. But I also knew, and I had my eyes wide open, that this was cut to hell and back. And there was probably going to be a lot of things missing from what the original conception of this movie was going to be. But really, at the end of the day, I mean, one of the things that, and I've talked with all of you guys at different points and on this show and at different points about this, my biggest complaint about Dawn of Justice centered on Superman. And, I worked in a comic book store for 6.5 years, and I never, ever in that entire time had to convince someone that Batman was cool. It's built into his zeitgeist. It's built into his being. The stories, the talent that he attracts, the even just the aesthetic of the character. Everybody knows that Batman is cool. I don't think there was a day that went by in that 6.5 years of working as a comic book retailer where I didn't have to convince someone to give Superman a try. And when Man of Steel came out, I thought that this was going to be the opportunity to show people the modern vision of what Superman was supposed to be, because Superman Returns certainly wasn't that in 2006. It was a 40-year-old conception of the character by that point, and didn't accentuate the things that modern Superman does so well, as in standing as a beacon in a dark world. Like the world around Superman, sometimes it can get a little hokey, of course, just by the very nature of the character's premise, but Superman himself always serves as light in the darkness. When you put a bright halogen bulb in the middle of a dark room, the darkness around it doesn't somehow make the light darker. It makes the light stand out. And that's what Superman in the DC universe has always been, at least from my perspective. So the first thing that I look at and the first thing I think of when I think of Justice League is the treatment of Superman. And if it was up to Joss Whedon to inject more Superman into this movie, then I think the guy deserves a friggin' medal, because Superman in the DCEU, we got flashes of his long-standing characterization, not just in the sense that he's the pinnacle of heroism in the DCU, but that he's someone who embraces his humanity but uses that as an excuse to try and help as many people as he can. Sometimes that stuff came through in Dawn of Justice, and it came through a little bit more in Man of Steel. But the vision of Superman that we got in Justice League was one that I've been waiting years to see, because it emphasizes his humanity while it also emphasizes the fact that he is that beacon. It didn't really bother me when Batman maybe made his bromance turn with Superman, because Batman's place in the Justice League has always been one as the tactician. He was never going to be the guy who ran on the front lines alongside Superman and punched someone like Steppenwolf in the face himself. He would get flattened, and he knows that. And
can I interject for a second, Chris? The one thing I would counter that is with this film, I agree with Bill a little bit, is that he didn't really do anything. He wasn't that tactician.
He made the entire plan for the movie. He made the entire plan for the team and how they were going to try and stop Steppenwolf.
No. Well, hold on. He drove the Batmobile through, and he was going to kill himself.
He was coordinating everybody's activity before they actually acted against Steppenwolf, and in that respect, that seemed truthful to me. When it comes to the specific delivery of a couple of the lines, sure, I can absolutely say that this is strange coming from a character like Batman. But he was never going to be the guy who had more of a role on the team when it came to actively being in the field when compared with superheroic colleagues. That just was never going to be the case.
I think they could have pushed that tactician angle a little stronger.
Yes.
Just a few lines of like, all right, Aquaman, get him with
but
your,
that's the thing. Like, they could have pushed everything a little harder in this movie. It was a 1 hour and 59-minute movie, as we've all talked about. And so, because that's a symptom to me of the cuts that the movie had to endure. And overall, that seems like a step in the right direction in an attempt to make it more accessible. But when it comes to Superman, I mean, Bruce makes his case to use one of the mother boxes in the Kryptonian ship to kickstart Superman's body. And that's when he shares the scene with Alfred about the humanity. And that's something that to me has been lost in the DCEU, was the emphasization of Superman's humanity. He has always been someone who doesn't see himself on a pedestal above other people. Everyone else sees Superman as a demigod, but Superman himself, people who don't understand him, especially his adversaries, think that Superman sees himself above humanity. That's one of the things that defines Lex Luthor's perspective on Superman. But the people who know him, as Batman came to do, and granted it was a little fast, but as Batman came to do through the self-sacrifice, and I still have problems with the fact that Superman died in the first place, but he realized that Superman has always placed the safety and well-being of his adopted people first in his mind. So having a more humanistic perspective and identification on a smaller scale instead of the macro scale that the previous films were so concerned with before made for a more truthful vision of Superman. Henry Cavill finally came home to Superman in this movie. He was likable. He had a degree of camaraderie with the team that the
way he interacts with the team is good.
When he's flying alongside the Flash as they get ready to go save the civilians, there was a little bit of a poke in there, and then all of a sudden it was business. You go left, I'll go right. And it was a little impractical to see him carrying an entire apartment complex, but hey, if it comes to a decision of practicality versus a proper representation finally for one of my favorite characters in fiction, I'm going to take the latter. And that, to me, is what we got with Justice League. So if his greater inclusion in the film is a symptom of Joss Whedon's involvement, then that, to me, is the single best part of the movie. When it comes to Steppenwolf, he was forgettable. I agree with Ryan that his dialogue was fun and that it was pretty cool to see some sort of brief flashes towards Apocalypse. But Steppenwolf was forgettable, but that's okay because his whole purpose, the whole purpose of Steppenwolf's being was to get his ass kicked by Superman. And that's something that I was waiting the entire movie to see. So I just had a big smile on my face when I finally saw that punch get thrown. A punch that I knew was going to happen. And it was really easy for me to forgive the relative forgettability of Steppenwolf in that regard. And so at the end of the day, it's easy for me to give Justice League a very enthusiastic recommendation because in addition to being pure superhero entertainment, it's a celebration of the characters. And Paul and I were talking the other day, and I put it this way. You know, you listen to an album from your favorite band, like a new album, with entirely different ears than you would listen to a greatest hits. And to me, when it comes to the characters, Justice League was a compilation of greatest hits. There's not a significant amount of substance in the plot, but it got the characters right in a way that I have not seen in the DCEU thus far. You know, I mean, by getting the characters right considering where we came from, that is a step in the right direction that I didn't even think Justice League was going to be. I thought that this was just going to be a cluster from beginning to end. And by actually if I get a good solid representation of characters that I've gravitated towards my entire life over a necessarily coherent plot, then I'm going to be hopeful that the coherent plot and something that is transformative in the genre will come later. But considering where we came from, I will take a step in the right direction. And that's probably why I enjoyed this movie so much. It was bathed in light. It has singularly identifying moments for each of the protagonists. It brings back the iconic cinematic sounds we've associated with these characters for decades. It's true to the heroes it's representing. And because of all of that stuff, it was some of the most fun I've had at a movie all year. And a lot of that is probably because that fun was so unexpected. So I've been so hungry for seeing these characters treated in this way for so long. So whatever it is, my heart soared by the end of this movie. And that is a hell of a feeling to come off of, considering that it felt like it got trampled at the end of Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that stuff on its own merits, this movie is nothing but a win for me. In spite of all of its problems, which are very present, I'll take it happily.
And there we go. See, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. You just, you made my heart soar with that, Chris. So thank you. No, that was good. It's a good point to point out, beyond structural issues and beyond again, the obvious things that we know about, you hit the heart of what I liked about the film. And which is why, I think when you're in the theater, people did cheer. Like the people that actually came, it resonated with them. I think that's why the audience score is so high, and the people did enjoy the time they had in the theater. They don't know about all the other stuff that we know about. My kids, they had that feeling. So everything that you talked about, Chris, I think that's true for, I think, most people that went into the film. And I'm not talking about fans and everyone who knows everything. I think those are the feelings they wanted, and those are the feelings that they walked away with. So very interesting. All right, Ryan.
Yes. Things I like.
Bring. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like I was saying, I liked all the characters, and the characters themselves and the character interactions, with the exception of some of the Batman stuff I was talking about. So, I like how Batman puts together the team. I like a lot of that stuff. He does have some good moments. That opening scene is cool. I didn't even notice until maybe the second or maybe even third viewing when the thief closes that window and you see Batman's reflection. I'm like, oh, Batman's reflection. That's cool. And, so there's some good stuff there. There definitely is. And, so, his outfit, I enjoyed his basic, costume better than BVS. It looked more streamlined. It looked a little bit better. And to stay on the Batman side of the world, J.K. Simmons as Gordon, that was great.
Oh man,
I couldn't get enough of him. I thought we were going to see less of him in the film than we did, but he was in it a good amount. He was sprinkled here and there, so I thought that was cool. Aesthetically he was good, and just his main demeanor, it just felt like comic book Gordon, and the way he interacted with people. There was that one weird part though, and there's a scene where he looks at the picture of a kid that drew a parademon, and he's like, well, he's acted in Gotham for 20 years. He's never done things like this. And I was like, wait, whoa, where were you in BVS when he was trying to kill Superman? I'll go talk to him about that. That's weird. But anyway.
Yeah, he was branding people at one time too. So they would,
I'm like, wait a second.
In prison,
what? Yeah, I'm like, hold on a second. What do you mean he's never done stuff like this?
Well, isn't
so that was
Gordon. That was Gordon's, public protection.
That just,
sure.
That just emphasizes the return to form, though, because, and you guys know just as well as I do, Jim Gordon in a lot of ways serves as Batman's beating heart. And I mean, he's the guy who's there to pull him back from the abyss if he's going to go too far. I mean, it was perfectly distilled in that scene from Hush when Batman nearly beats the Joker to death. And who's there to pull him back?
See, That's why it would have been nice to have him in BBS to kind of show that.
And that's because from what I understand, the implication, and there was probably a cut scene, was that Jim Gordon was dead.
Yeah, he was supposed to have been dead in BBS.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that. Yep. So, and that's a lot of things. And in some ways I can forgive it, but on the other hand, it's like, man, BBS just didn't set up well for it. But anyway, back into the positives. So, I liked some of that Batman stuff aesthetically. I like Gordon. Wonder Woman, again, for the most part, I really enjoyed. I like that opening scene. It doesn't really connect to much of the rest of the film, but it was fun to watch. Seeing her like bounce around and deflect all those bullets was just amazing. Danny Elfman's orchestration of her theme was really good. Overall, I've heard a lot of people have complaints about Danny Elfman's score, but for the most part, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the way he put in the classic themes. And like I said, I've seen the film 4 times in 4 different theaters, and I will say that just the audio mix in general does not do his score any favors. Like, for example, towards the end of the film, when the Batmobile jumps out of the Flying Fox, and it blares the Batman theme that you can hear if you listen to the soundtrack itself, the sound effects just kind of kill it there. And it just kind of ruins the score in a lot of places. And I do think that, Danny Elfman's score is pretty necessary to kind of be the glue that holds together, the different tones and the reshoots and stuff. And it just helps push the film along. So overall, I really enjoyed Danny Elfman's score. Cyborg, we've talked a lot about Cyborg and like, is his CG going to hold up? I think that's one of the 2 things in the film that the CG is spot on and really good are with Aquaman Atlantis stuff and with Cyborg. Like, I didn't, and you know what? Then that shows you how hard it is to do the face, because everything but the face is CG on Cyborg, and to me it worked. I mean, it just really worked, and it's not just the CG that's good, but Ray Fisher's performance is so good as Cyborg that I bought into the character, and I think that's what you need to have a successful character like that it has CG elements and stuff. And his story was kind of shortchanged the way his it was just kind of shoehorned into the film, and a lot of people, like my sister, we were watching, she's like, does he have a backstory? Like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, we're just kind of talking through it. So I wish they could have expanded on that a little bit more, but I like the way that he plays the character, and he has some really good payoffs too. Each character in the film almost has like a mini arc, and his is, accepting his new form of humanity, or whatever you want to call it. And there's that moment at the end where him and Superman pull apart the mother boxes, and, Superman's like, oh, I want to, I like being alive. And then Cyborg says, I do too, or whatever. And, that was great. That was some good dialogue and good payoff to his story. The Flash, I didn't dislike the quirkiness of the Flash, but I wish Ezra Miller's like quirky level 10 was like a quirky level 6 or something like that. It's just a
really
little
good
bit
for how he portrayed the character. You know what I mean?
Yes. And it was a very, and you watching it, you're like, this is a very deliberate interpretation they're doing. They're trying to do something different, and on a lot of the levels I think they succeeded, but I just wish it was a little bit brought down. But a lot of the stuff he did, his reactions were cool. Aquaman, I loved Aquaman. Just my man. The Aqua Bro stuff that we saw in the trailers, I mean, it was not to the level of that's every scene he's in, and he gets to steal the show in that scene where, he's pouring out his heart thanks to the lasso of truth.
That's a great scene.
It's one of the best scenes in the film. It probably is, that's when everything's firing on all cylinders. The characters are the characters, they're interacting with each other, and there's a great payoff. And it's like, the film has a lot of moments like that where individually in and of itself, it's really good little moments, but just overall, it just kind of falls short of those. But that particular moment was really good. Let's see, is there any Justice League character I haven't talked about? I don't think so. I think I covered them all. So yeah, I mean, and and the Aquaman stuff, in Atlantis was cool. Seeing Mera was cool. I was really impressed with what we saw of Mera, actually. Like, I thought she really worked. like the way she used like aquakinesis to kind of both.
Oh, that was I love when
like,
they opened up the bubble or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
that was really
yeah.
because I was thinking like,
okay,
how these ever's going to talk to each other? You know, like an Aquaman and stuff. I don't, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Apparently, they're not going to do that so much in the actual film, but for the time they had in Justice League,
quick
to get that
question
across, I think it was really smart.
DC people more knowledgeable of DC than me. Okay, like, is Atlantis? Is there anywhere like it's not underwater, or is it? They always live underwater the whole flipping time, or
there's different interpretations depending on what story you read. You know, it's like some parts are like the Gungan city or whatever, where they have like water bubbles and stuff, but or air bubbles. But I liked how Mara used that aquakinesis to kind of like make Steppenwolf fall down and stuff and not get the mother box. Cool. That was cool. The Amazon scene that Justin was talking about, I liked all that, you know, just the construction of that, the action of that. And when Wonder Woman's telling Bruce about the backstory of Steppenwolf and it shows the big battle, that was super cool. And seeing a Green Lantern was just unexpected and awesome. And they did a great job with it. And just one of my favorite little bitty moments of the entire movie. It's silly, but I love it. Is when the Green Lantern dies and then the ring jumps off and it goes away to space, and Steppenwolf gives this look, and that's I'm like, I want to see that Steppenwolf in the whole movie. He gives the ring this look like, what's that? Or that's something interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. Like, and it was just a brief little moment, but there was so much behind it, and I love that. I'm like, I want to see more of that. So, you know, overall, the film has a lot of merit. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of moments that just kind of bring out the DC universe joy in my heart. But as an overall picture, it's, you know, if I had to grade it, are we going to get into grades, Justin? At the end?
We'll try. We'll wrap that up really quick at the end.
Okay. But that's my overall positives. There's a lot of little ones in there.
All right, Paul.
Y'all.
This is where I really want to hear from you, because I want to hear your good stuff.
Well, I think there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. I really do think that. But the first thing that comes to mind is Aquaman. You know, Aquaman has always been a weird character for me, and for just in comic books, and just he never seemed interesting. I will say, me and Chris talk a lot about Peter David's run in the mid '90s when he gave him the harpoon hand and all that. And I actually bought a bunch of those Peter David comics because as a kid, I was always Marvel, you know, and you have limited money when you're a kid, and I have limited money now as an adult. But I mean, like, you really had to, like, you know, I had to really bear witness to, like, okay, what do I want to do? I want to buy some Marvel books, or I want to try some DC. I would dabble in some DC, but Marvel was always my go-to. Not because I thought they all sucked. I just preferred Marvel, and that's where I had to put my money into. But as a kid, I even as, like, you know, in middle school, I knew who the writers were. Peter David wrote Aquaman, so I always wanted to read that. So I have been reading that. But he's always been a weird character where I never took him seriously besides that run by Peter David. Yeah. And, you know, Aqua Drogo with Momoa, it was just like, it was a cool idea, but I was like, okay, how are they going to make this actually seem like Aquaman? You know, which is an interesting challenge, and I think they nailed it. It's obviously not the same character. I'm assuming it's not the same character from the comic books, but I loved his costume. It was perfect. It's not completely at all like what I would think the comic book character would wear, but in the film, in the lighting, you could see the orange and the green just muted. It's very faint, and it's perfect. I'm like, oh, but in certain lighting, it's Aquaman. I'm like, oh, sweet. And so that, and people who listen to me on other shows like Marvel News Show know that costumes are a big deal for me in these superhero films. They have to be. You know, what's the point of making a superhero movie if you're not going to make them look like the character? To me, it's like it defeats the purpose of me watching the movie. You know, it's like when in the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie when they didn't give him a skull on his shirt. I'm like, that's so late.
It's good to see them embrace the comic roots.
Exactly, and so and with Aquaman, I mean, he's talk about one of the hardest things to transition onto screen without making them look stupid. And I think they successfully did that costume wise. Character wise, I think they did hit a home run as well. Now, I think the whole Aqua Bro thing are all those things were viable or valid in the trailer. And I was always a little hesitant. I'll even admit, I was starting to ironically like Aquaman because he's so ridiculous in the trailers. Like, I mean, my man, and yeah, I mean, like all that stuff.
That's
ridiculous.
the brave and the bold kind of thing. It's like, oh, here comes Aquaman.
And I don't know that.
He should have said outrageous one time.
And movie. They need to save that for his film. That's where
But him saying it Batman though, that's I like that.
So okay, but so here's the thing.
Call this one. Brave and the Bold Aquaman is the best.
Is that the last? Was it a cartoon?
Yeah. It's okay. He's like the most jovial. Like, let's go into battle together, brother.
So
like,
he's the Thor.
Aquaman. Yeah, he's kind of very
Paul.
Very Thor.
Get on YouTube and Google search Aquaman's Song of Heroism, and Brave and the Bold. You'll understand. That's all you'll need to know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I know we'll do that. But so kind of going, I remember like sending my buddy who I went and saw it with a bunch of Aquaman gifts. So when I asked him like, are we going to go? And he goes, yeah, I'll go with you. And then I text, I sent him a gift of my man. And then I'm like, yeah, it was ridiculous. And every time he responds, I don't have an Aquaman response for you. So I was ironically getting ready to like kind of like hate, but also love hate him. And, so I went into the film and I loved the character. I really did. I bought the fact that he was kind of like, he's kind of similar to Superman. He's kind of caught between two different worlds. And I think for the short amount of time that you gave, that they gave him, it worked. And I'm really, really excited for Aquaman. And I mean that, like, that's 100% like
his solo movie. I can't wait for that.
I have and this is just me, just throwing things out to the wind here. But I'm curious on all the DC people who listen. I have this feeling, and I'm curious what especially what Bill thinks, is Bill's tied into all this stuff like deeply and he knows things. But my thing is this: I'm wondering. We know Justice League is underperforming. It's whatever. I'm wondering that how ironic would it be if Wonder Woman and Aquaman would be the things that make this thing strive, like keep this universe going? Because I have a feeling, I have this sinking feeling, and who knows what I know, but I have this feeling that Aquaman is going to do well.
I believe it will. 100%. I think it's going to do Wonder Woman type stuff.
Yeah,
because they let James make his movie and left him alone.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So now they're going to be stuck because crap. We've got two hit. We count Suicide Squad because that was a success. So now you've got Justice League underperforming, but then you have Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman doing well. It's like crap. So they have no choice but to go forward. And I think that's good. I think Aquaman's going to do well. And like I said, I almost feel like Justice League was a trailer for the Aquaman movie. Like, okay, this is like what you're going to get a tease for a little bit. I mean, so I loved everything with it. I loved the Atlantis stuff. I loved all that. I was fine with Wonder Woman. I wasn't a huge fan of her in the movie. She just didn't really seem to do as much as I thought she was going to.
I agree with that.
I kind of wanted her to do a little bit more. I thought she was going to be in the movie a ton with reshoots, but I guess they didn't. So that was weird. Batman was okay. I did love the beginning scene. I know it's kind of anti what not really Bill's thing, but I loved the beginning, even despite him basically exposing himself in front of that crook, like, Alfred, get Bruce Wayne Manor ready. I mean, whatever.
Everybody was really flippant about secret identities in this film. It didn't matter too much.
I was okay with it. I mean, he's whatever, but I love that whole opening scene. And it's funny because when I was watching for the first time, I'm like, this doesn't look like, I think this is a reshoot. I hate going into knowing that, but the second time I saw it, I loved it. So, I love the fact they got Superman, I think, came in, he was his more traditional self. And this is coming from someone who loved Man of Steel.
I love Man of Steel. I'm one of the biggest apologists. I will defend that movie. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Man of Steel is just one of those things. Even though like this is a radically different Superman than Man of Steel. I love Superman coming in. I felt like that felt right to me. And then like I said, I think overall I loved most of the action scenes. I loved Superman versus the Justice League at Heroes Park.
Mm-hmm.
And when and everyone says when Flash is running around,
so good,
and then Superman oh my gosh, like at both times, it's a chuckle from everyone, and it's played perfectly.
Yeah,
it's played perfectly.
I saw it coming, and I'm like, they're not gonna do that. They're not. Oh, they are gonna do that, and he can look at him. That was perfect.
Yeah, so so there's just so much about this that I liked that I can't wait to see more of. Like I can't wait to see more Wonder Woman. I can't wait to see more Aquaman. I'm really excited for Aquaman. I'm almost. I'll be honest. I'm getting really like scared that I'm getting so excited for it because I don't want to be disappointed. You know what I mean? Like, and this is my biggest problem with the DC films is that. I'm afraid to get my hopes up or get them down because they can't decide what kind of movie they're going to make. Like, yeah. It just sucks because I went in with BVS thinking it was going to be a total pile of crap because everyone said it was. And I came out like, I didn't hate that. I like that. And everyone, I go back online and everyone's like trying to kill each other over it. And I'm like, all right, I don't want any of this. And so, and then I'm just like, I don't want to, whatever. I liked it. And then Man of Steel I loved. And then I go see Suicide Squad. And I'm like the only person I feel like who came out of that, like, I really like that. And everyone's like, yeah, but the villain
How many times have you seen it?
Yeah. I've seen it like 5-6 times. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
I told you, I'm weird. And so everyone wants to hate that movie. It got 16%. And everyone's like, it's crap. And I'm like, I like it. And then I go into Justice League and I'm afraid to like this movie. And it's like, oh, I liked it. I liked Wonder Woman. I don't know. It's just weird. Everyone's trying to tell me like where to set my expectations. And then DC wants to set my expectations by giving me some fun trailers or whatever. And then I just kind of go in. I'm like, I'm all over the place. So so this movie just was just, I liked most of it. Like, I don't think it was, I don't think I love like the Amazon scene with Steppenwolf. That keep away thing was amazing.
Yeah.
I think that the flashback scene was awesome. Now, I just want to say it was amazing. And I didn't know that who those people with lightning bolts were. I'm not smart. Yeah. I didn't realize those were the old gods. I should have figured that out, but I'm just like, who's this guy with lightning bolts? He's cool. Yeah, he died. He said that. So
Ares was in there for
well, he was in there for a second.
I can't wait to pause the Blu-ray on that.
Yeah,
because
But here's the problem: they botched the whole flashback scene. They botched it because what they should have done is Lord of the Rings it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is put in the very beginning of the movie.
I bet it was. I bet it was at one point.
I just
because they said that pretty much.
Oh, did they? Because it's just weird to have Diana just show up at the Batcave and be like, I broke your $1 million security system. Let me tell you a story. Sit down, Bruce Wayne. And, it's just like, what? Yep. Like, why? She couldn't just do that. Like, and then they all of a sudden they're walking outside and like, because I got the impression that when she came in, it was nighttime, and then the next scene is them walking like out in the middle of midday with like raining, and looks like Seattle, and so.
Well, of course, Batman wants to keep the sunlight out of the Batcave. He's Batman.
Well, no, I know that. I know that. I'm just saying. I got the impression. Anyway, but the flashback scene was incredible with a Green Lantern. It was really, really cool Easter egg, and I don't know. I really wish they would have put that in the beginning of the film. I think people would have really. I think it would have set people up a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. But then you would have revealed Steppenwolf, and then that would have, they probably would have like, we won't reveal the villain yet, and so whatever. No, I think I hate to disagree with people on this one, Bill, but I love the Nightcrawler. I thought it was cool. So
the Nightcrawler,
it doesn't make any sense.
It was cool, but it had no sense. They never even called the Nightcrawler.
Yeah, he does. He goes, I need the Nightcrawler.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, the flying fox.
yeah. The wrap up my thoughts. I thought the fight scenes were mostly good. The CGI I thought for the most part was okay. There's a couple parts here, but I think I liked majority of everything. Aquaman's my big standout. Flash is, in Cyborg, I preferred Flash over Cyborg. Cyborg, I felt was just kind of an afterthought a lot of times, and I felt bad because I liked the stuff they did with him, but I just kind of felt like he also just didn't do much.
He's just the most subdued character of the whole group too.
Yeah.
So
right, which is fine.
Yeah. He was
Flash,
supposed to be the heart of the story.
Exactly.
And I think they chopped the hell out of it.
Yeah. I also think that I liked Ezra Miller's Flash, but I don't know if I want a movie with him. I think his Flash specifically is a better supporting character. And in my opinion, I just don't think I can handle an hour and 50 minutes version of him running around, making quips here and there. And, I think he just better served as a supporting character, but that's my opinion. But yeah, I like this movie, and I liked most of it. The things it's funny, like everything that I didn't mention in my dislikes of the pacing and just those glaring things. That being said, everything else worked. All that stuff still worked for me, even though I noticed that it kind of bugged me. It all still kind of worked. So I hope that makes sense.
No, good. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We got to wrap soon, so we're gonna get to our lightning round version of our final grade, but tie it in with your expectation moving forward for the DC films, like what you would like to see or what you think's gonna happen. But we got to move through that really quick. I just wanted to kind of tag on the end. This is my loves of this movie. I think I loved everything everyone kind of mentioned. I do love that intro scene on the phone, regardless of the mustache. I thought it did what it was supposed to do, was to kind of give a history of Superman. People did love him because we couldn't really tell from the previous movies, but it was a good way of encapsulating those thoughts and letting the people know, like, hey, he inspired hope. People loved him. These kids loved him. I love that part of it. And so scene. I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, I got,
just, the other stuff kind of, regardless of, Mustache Gate, I like that part. And, the Green Lanterns and that Amazon scene, I think was probably one of the strongest action scenes in the entire film. And I loved the entire thing. I thought it actually made me like, oh man, get away from Steppenwolf. I actually felt like, oh dude, there are some serious consequences if you get that mother box. And it was such a fantastic scene, and I love the Amazons and seeing them again. And so, anywho, we've all covered all the other stuff that was great. I think we're all on the same page with the things that we enjoyed. So, all right, you guys. So let's wrap up with what we want to see moving forward in our letter grade, and we're going to get this done in about 8 minutes. All right, going on to Chris, and I'm going to actually have Bill close this part out. Is that cool, Bill?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. All right. And
I feel like
Chris,
grade wise, I have a subjective and an objective. Objective, it would probably be like a B minus, but subjective, it would probably be like an A minus, just because I thought it was that much of an improvement with icons that I love. As far as stuff that I would like to see, it basically just comes down to, I'm reasonably sure that Batman is fine, regardless of whether or not Ben Affleck continues on. There's some serious doubts about that, as there should be, but Warner Brothers isn't going to let Batman go. And we obviously have a director slotted for a Batman movie, and he's a very talented director. And I think there's a lot to look forward to with that. So Batman's fine. Aquaman, I'm extremely looking forward to. I think James Wan's one of the best directors working today. So him doing Aquaman is very exciting to me. I would like to see a Flash movie is long overdue. And whether they do some changes with Ezra Miller's character, I'm not sure how they would actually go about it, but the Flash is a DC character that needs a movie, and he should have had one years ago. So I would like to see it, even if it's a Flashpoint movie, if that's like the avenue that they go to maybe reset some aspects of the DCEU, then that's fine with me. And I would be really interested to see, like Flashpoint Batman and the potential of conflict between the Amazons and the Atlanteans and all of the stuff that comes with that. Obviously, the thing that's at the top of my list is a new dedicated solo Superman movie with Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill gave a really great interview to the LA Times last week, where he talked about the fact that Joss Whedon and his views on an aspirational heroic Superman are aligned, and he was happy to bring that, and that there's a great deal of potential to explore that in a modern context. And whether it's someone like Matthew Vaughn or if it's George Miller, which I think would be incredible, I think we're ready to believe in Superman again. So I absolutely want to see a new dedicated solo Superman movie. You know, we're going to get Wonder Woman, and it's likely we're going to get a Gotham City Sirens. It looks like we're probably going to get a Suicide Squad sequel in some form or fashion. So I'm not really worried about anything but what the future is for Superman. Because if Justice League laid any hints down, it's that he's finally back, and it only took him 30 years to get here.
Yeah. All right, Paul.
You know, it's funny. I thought when you said grades earlier, I thought of exactly what Chris said about B-. I'd say it's a little above average. And I don't really believe in like, you know, if it's a film, I grade it as an F, but as a superhero fan, I grade it as I don't give a crap about that stuff. For me, it's like, it's a B- because I love superheroes and I feel like I got out of it what I wanted out of it. It's not more than a B- because of all the just kind of the wonkiness that the movie kind of went through. And as far as where I want these films to go, I just hope that they have confidence in their material. And I hope that like now they have Jeff Johns and a little more of an oversight with the characters, which I think that Zack Snyder never really had. He had all his freedom, just like Nolan did. I'm assuming. I don't know the whole background.
He was in charge of DC on film for what, 2 years ish? Yeah.
With probably more with pre-production.
Right. And so if you look at it, like he never really had someone like a Jeff Johns who was maybe in charge or working with that could really help direct him and say, you know, that's not maybe the best story aspect to adopt in with this character and things like that, to avoid a lot of the craziness that BVS kind of, you know, started. And again, like I'm not saying, you know, whatever, I'm getting, you know, way too long-winded, but basically I think that my expectations, I'm hoping that with someone who knows the characters in the comic books can help orchestrate a universe that's more coherent with each other, characterization wise, and also the fact that, and also give these people freedom, the people meaning the creative people freedom to do things, and hopefully it'll be a good marriage this time instead of just a one-sided, you know, thing. So yeah, I just hope that these movies embrace the characters from the comic books, because that's ultimately why they survived so many years. It's why, you know, the characters at Image Comics, you know, look at those characters. They haven't survived as well as these ones because they just don't, I mean, they have one long time, but they're also they're just established characters. They have like, there's something about them that's worth selling, because if the characters are any worthwhile to read or to watch, they withstand time. And there's a reason why Aquaman and the Flash and even Cyborg have withstood time. It's because they're good characters. So as long as these directors and the studios behind them, you know, give them the support they need, that I think that everything will turn out fine. I think the DCEU is salvageable, and I think it's still a solid thing. So let's just keep at it and try to right the ship.
Yep. All right, Ryan.
Okay, me. Well, like I've said the whole show. I mean, Justice League, it ended up being it's fun, it's enjoyable, but you know, it has a lot of parts that make the DC fan of me really happy. But at the end of the day, overall, it's rushed, it's sloppy. It needed a lot more support from all parties involved to instead of pushing it out the door and just getting it out there and getting it done. It needed to be. I mean, there's a lot of things that they should have done different, and I can't forgive that. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's good enough but that's not good enough for all the characters involved, in my opinion. I mean, DC on film deserves better. All those characters deserve better than that movie. And I'm glad that it solves a lot of the problems from previous films, but in a lot of ways, I'm like, I'm worried that it's too little too late at this point, based off the box office and everything. But at the end of the day, you know, if BVS, I stand by my flimsy B grade for BVS. Justice League is a C+ for me. The plus, it comes from the post-credit scene with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor. And the reason is, like I said, it's a C plus is because it's just rushed and sloppy, and as it in its own little vacuum, it's just more of a compromised feeling film than BVS. And BVS is a flimsy B because at least it's one person's vision that did make it to screen eventually. So moving forward, I just think with the box office and the ATT merger and all that stuff, I just think they're going to play it safe, like super safe for the foreseeable future. We're going to get the solo movies. We're going to get Aquaman, Wonder Woman 2, Batman. That's going to buy them time for all that stuff to kind of shake out, with both as a business and as on the public. We're going to get the films that are either already done or that they know for sure are going to work. And hopefully at some point in the future, they'll be able to kind of, recoup and we'll get some of this stuff. I really want another Superman movie, but I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
No. All right. Here's where I'm at with the movie. I give it a B minus. But it's wavering. It's almost a C, but I think the characters are what make it for me. I just like seeing the characters together. I like how they interacted. I think I wanted more. And if you heard the Let's Go comic show we did, the rating on there for the best is I gotta go. But for me, for this, it's almost a Let's Go, which is kind of like that B plus, that spot of go watch it, but it's only because of the characters. And here's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for, and I'm not saying my expectations are realistic by any means, but I am hoping that this year off of films can really give Warner Brothers an idea of what they need to do. Cause I'm of the mind that they don't need to completely abandon this universe. I think this is a Rick Shuism. There's some good bones here. I think Aquaman, we've all agreed Aquaman's great. Wonder Woman's great. We want to see Cavill return. I think Ray Fisher as Cyborg, I think they can do some cool stuff with him in the future. I don't know where he fits in the scheme of everything. I don't know if a Cyborg movie is on the list yet.
Oh, hell yeah. It's one of those announced films.
All these actors.
So yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 2020 anyway.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But I think that these actors are great. These actors seem to care about the characters. And I think Warner Brothers, hopefully they take notice of that. The problem has not been the actors in these movies. The problem has been this desire to push something that didn't need to be here yet. And what I want is good movies. I want Wonder Woman 2 to be good. I want Aquaman to be good. I want whatever they do next. I want, Matt Reeves' Batman film to be good. Let them be good films. That being said, Ryan, I agree with you. That tag, and I know Bill hated it, that it was put in there. Yeah. I love this idea of, Deathstroke on the boat and Lex Luthor. And it made me, I'm not a huge Eisenberg Lex Luthor fan, but I liked what he did in that little spot, as if they can keep that, if that's going to be his, way of existing in this, post Justice League world, I can dig that. But here's what I think would be cool. And, pay attention closely. I don't want us to be commercials for other movies. I don't think that is where it needs to be. But if there is a tag like that, article that El Fanboy put out, if Warner Brothers wants to add a little hey, let James Wan's movie be what it is. But if they want to add hey, here's Black Manta join up with Deathstroke or something at the end, I could be okay with that as long as it doesn't deter the film that's trying to be made. But if they have a plan, and I don't know what that plan would be. I don't know. I don't think Legion of Doom movie is something that they need to make. But if they do something where they can go up against their arch nemesis, I think that could be a way bigger pool and something stronger if set up right. And if people can have that buy-in of excitement of oh man, I want to see that, because
the only people that are going to remember or get excited about that are super fans that remember the end credits.
But we talked about that before on one of the other shows when DC made, or when Jeff Johns specifically made the statement about how the movies are going to be oriented, that one movie is not going to be about another movie. And from my perspective, like if there's a course correction that needs to be made in the DCEU, the best thing to do is to put a comic book guy in charge. And since they have Geoff Johns in charge, comic book continuity reinvents itself all the time, and it usually does so in a pretty good way. And there's no reason, absolutely no reason why the movies can't mimic that. By bringing comic book continuity to movies, you can do that. And like I said before on the other show where we talked about that reorientation, an issue of Detective Comics, when you read it, doesn't make reference to the fact that it takes place in the same universe as the issue of Aquaman that came out last week, but you know that it's still in the same world. Exactly. And they don't need to be so self-referential to each other.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think that's what people want either. I don't think, we need or want Batman to be like, well, hold on, let me see what Aquaman thinks about this. Like those things don't need to happen and shouldn't happen. It would be completely, it would stick out like a sore thumb, but just make some good movies and let us all be excited about these characters again. And Warner Brothers, I feel like they need to take their hands off the wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
Let the directors tell their stories, but let someone who, like a Geoff Johns, let them oversee the universe and make sure they meet with the right directors. Like, hey, here's what we want to do. What is your ideas? Man, I love that idea. Let's do it. Like, have someone be, they need someone like a Feige, someone who cares, because I don't think all Marvel films are the same. When people say that, I'm like, I feel like, Guardians and Winter Soldier, two of my favorites, are completely different films, but they're in the same tapestry. And have someone who cares to kind of shepherd these films. So that being said, B-.
It's B-. Okay.
all right.
Real quick. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, Johns has been involved. Their whole DC Films thing is there. I based off some of the articles we've read over the past couple of months and stuff. I mean, it's clear that Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment have some wires crossed, and they need to uncross them. We've talked about Geoff Johns a lot in this podcast and stuff, and yes. He needs to actually have that Feige-like power to be able to do something. What I 2 years from now, I don't want us to keep saying, man, Geoff Johns needs to be able to do stuff. Like, no, he right now, he needs to be able to do stuff. This doesn't need to be a conversation for future films. Like, cause we've been saying that same thing ever since BVS came out with every film. So.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like with the Vulture article released earlier, like it sounds like they might be headed that way. So, anywho, Bill, please,
all right,
take us out, brother.
I graded it on my review. I gave it a C-ish. I call it a floating C. It's a floating C.
Floating C. There we go. It could change at any time.
Getting into B area, I don't see it getting into D area. It's just okay. And with that said, just okay is not good enough. It's just not good enough for DC on film, and it's not good enough for my beloved Batman on film. It's not. It's just not. And to me, this is Batman on film 20 years ago, where I'm at. I just demand better for all of this, and I hope I agree with Justin, and I said it on the last vlog I had with El Fanboy or Mario Francisco Robles, that this 13-month gap between Justice League and Aquaman is a good thing. It really is. I'm glad there's nothing that was in production that would be forced out, next summer, next spring. I mean, it's a good idea to kind of let things settle, let things breathe, regroup. I believe they are going back to director-driven films. The issue I have, and I'm with you with Geoff Johns in saying they need a Feige, but you either have to go all in on a shared universe, or you can't, because you can't have producer-driven films with strong filmmakers. It's hard to do, and Warner Brothers, they tried this. They tried it, and look what we've got. I think there could be, but I agree with what Justin said. There's, let Geoff Johns or whomever, John Berg, if you're going to hire a director, then make sure you're hiring a director that jibes with what you're doing or what your vision. So there's not what we've had the last 2 years plus or whatever. So, I think, of course, we're going to get Aquaman because it's in the can. I think obviously we're getting Wonder Woman 2. I'm 99.9% sure Matt Reeves, the Batman, will come to fruition with a new Batman. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Is it the same Batman as Ben Affleck? Is it a different Batman? Is it a younger version? I think doing prequels kind of gives them an out in that regard because we've talked about that before. You don't have to worry about continuity or what became before. You just kind of do your thing, and then it's still part of the shared universe. I think they'll continue with the idea that this is a shared universe, but there's not going to be they're not going to beat people over the head with continuity and advertising another movie and so forth and so on. And it goes back, and I'll say it. I think it was a mistake to put. I know y'all loved it, and I thought it was well done. It was cool, as the fan in me liked it. But that scene added at the last moment with Deathstroke and Lex, it's the same stuff that got them in this place in the first. The same stuff that got them where they are now. Is this promising things, or announcing things, introducing people as directors that got them into this mess, and it's the same dadgum thing, and they need to stop with that. It's we may never see those two characters and those actors again in a DC movie. So that was my only contention, and I'm hoping Aquaman, if they do it, they have a plan. Don't do it just for the hell of it, and I think the next 13 months they got time to think about it. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. My excitement comes with the hope that they follow through on it.
I mean, that, exactly.
Don't
that was
me.
Something that was shot under Zack Snyder, and it was injected at the last minute. For what? Mm-hmm. For what reason? I have no idea what they knew. Hey, they knew what was coming. I mean, does everybody agree with that? Warner Brothers knew what was coming with this film. Yeah. And it's,
I think so.
I want better. I don't want this again. I don't. And at some point, I mean, it's obvious people have voted with their wallets. They don't care overall. The general audience really doesn't care about coming out and seeing this. And it's not really the fault of Justice League, because it's a fun film. It's worth your money to see. But everything that came before, I don't want to see this anymore. Even with how great Wonder Woman was, couldn't boost this film into better. And that's it. I've said my piece with this movie. It is what it is. Let's move forward. Look forward from this point on.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us today on the Batman on Film podcast. Thank you to all of our wonderful guests. So, Chris,
feel free to follow me on Twitter at Chris Clow, ChrisClow, and check out my article series Comics on Film at movies.com every Friday. I also recently wrote a recap, a canon continuity recap of everything that Luke Skywalker was up to between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. That's on movies.com. Also have a, like I alluded to before, Discovery Debrief, a Star Trek podcast that includes BOF alum Zaki Hassan, and my own podcast, Comics on Consoles, which deals with comics-based video games. So you can find information on all that stuff through my Twitter handle.
Chris, does Rick know about that Luke Skywalker thing?
I'm not sure if he does. I'm not sure. I actually threw it to Paul to see if I screwed anything up in it, but I think Rick and I should talk more Star Wars, because people might be surprised that I actually know a little more than you might think about Star Wars.
I don't know, Chris. I don't know if that's going to bring you guys together. You might convert
you
to Star
Trek. You
Trek.
can love both. It's not against the law.
Yeah,
it's true. You can't.
I don't know if I can.
You can love both. All right, Paul. Paul, what's up, buddy?
I lost my plug, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's back. We reinstated
okay.
it. Since Superman returned, all hope
Fair enough.
is returned to the world.
Fair enough. You can find me on Twitter at Hermann22 with 2 N's, aka P-Thug. Also, see my Star Wars podcast, Blaster Cannon. That's Cannon with CANON. Or at Blaster Cannon Pod. Check me out there.
Awesome. Ryan.
Follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan, and follow the other podcast I'm doing, the Robin Everyone Loves a Drake podcast, on Twitter at ELTD Podcast.
Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at J_Rocka, and we can talk about all the fun things of fandom and my snark. Sorry. I was told that I'm too snarky, and I'm like, oh,
you're the least snarky person on this podcast, sir.
Oh man. Well,
in general.
Oh, there you go. That just shows. So, and my buddy was like, "You like to stir the pot?" I'm like, "I like to have
only when
fun,
it comes to Dark Knight Rises and stuff." But
yeah, and it's all in jest. But anyways, so join me there on the internet. You can check out the Let's Go Comic Show. We're putting out our episode. We're talking about the new Avengers Infinity War trailer and some of the Doomsday Clock stuff, issue 1 that just came out. So join us there. We'll be putting that out, I think, today.
Okay.
So,
follow
Bill.
me on Twitter at Batman on Film. If you're so inclined, if you like this podcast and these new vlogs we're doing and just Batman on Film in general, you can become a supporter over at patreon.com/Batman on Film. And Batman on Film 2.0 is coming in less than a month. We're all excited for that. And Batman on Film's 20th anniversary begins on January 1st, 2018.
Yeah.
So we'll be celebrating that. 20
celebration.
flipping years, man. I can't
be great.
believe it. Can't believe it.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, man.
Yeah. And you know what? Reminder to everybody, please go to iTunes and leave us a review and 5 stars and some positive comments. That really helps put the show up in the rankings, and we know you're there. So please give us some listener love.
Quick on the vlogs, it's not just Bill exclusive. I mean, I would love to see y'all do some comic book stuff and toy stuff and stuff like that. And we've talked about it. So anyway, that's all.
Got some video game
It's gonna be
ideas.
all part of BOF 2.0. So.
Yeah, 2.0. There's going to be a lot of stuff, especially in the lull of some of these movies. I mean, there's going to be news that comes out, but we're going to be able to do a lot more. More Batman fan centric.
I like comic books.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like comic books.
Can I just say that Batman Annual number 2 by Tom King was fantastic, and oh man, everybody go and I'm not going to spoil it. Go and buy that comic book, get it digitally, because I heard there were some shipping issues with it, so a lot of people may not have got it at their shop. But
Tom King is king, as far as I'm concerned.
He really is. He's just got such a good grasp on Batman and Catwoman.
I haven't read it.
Just comics in general, man.
Mr. Miracle. Read Mr. Miracle.
Yeah. Okay. There may be some stuff coming in y'all's inboxes in regards to that. Because, I mean.
Well, considering the last thing that showed up in my inbox, you got me
Bill.
peeling my eyes like a hawk then. Jeez.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Around Friday, Saturday, around that time. There's something worth it all. They shoot it over your way. Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. The Batman comics have been. Everything's been really.
And I love
DC Comics is kicking ass.
A lot of good
comics.
stuff.
Oh hell
I'll
yes.
say that.
Yeah.
It sucks. I can't, being the Marvel guy and being broke, I can't buy that many DC comics.
There's
So
that
I'm
sale.
like, I'm
There's
just
that
waiting
Black
for
Friday sale.
Oh, that Black Friday sale was incredible.
I have your
so
email,
much money.
so-
I was like, I told my wife,
I may be able to help you out on some of that.
please, I would anything. I'll take anything. I'll take anything. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the Batman on Film podcast. We are authoritative, definitive. We are the dadgum original Batman on Film.
Hey now! You've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? Go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/jet.batmanonfilm. Email Jett via jet@batman-on-film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShoeRick and on Facebook at facebook.com/BOF-Shoe. For Jett, Rick, Justin, and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.